Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of I don't even know what to do for this intro. Following the shockingly positive reception I got to the original video I posted where I basically blabbed for 20 minutes about why I think Three Houses is like the greatest game ever, I got a lot of requests asking me to cover its sequel/spinoff, Three Hopes. But the problem is that at the time I was only partway through the final route in the game, and unlike IGN, I did not really want to film a video posting a full review on something that I still had yet to finish. And because just like college and life got in the way, I did not get the chance to finish the game until just a few days ago. Like, I was actually sitting on my couch right here writing the script to this the second I finished the final boss in Zergleam. So what did I think of the second attempt at a Fire Emblem Warriors spin-off game? Well, it definitely went a lot better than the first. Okay, so some background about the game and my experiences with it. In 2017, Nintendo released the original Fire Emblem Warriors game for Switch and 3DS, and it was an absolute disaster class of a game that I personally sunk a lot of hours into because I just enjoyed the gameplay, but I 100% recognize it was not a very good game. The original Warriors was basically just them chucking a bunch of the most popular protags into a hack and slash game consisting of protags ranging from about Shadow Dragon up until Fates, with a terribly tropey plot and the most god-awful set of protagonists you have ever encountered in a game, popularly known as the Lemon Twins. In 2019, however, Nintendo followed up by dropping one of the best Fire Emblem titles, quite literally of all time, and probably one of the best games ever produced, called Fire Emblem Three Houses for the Nintendo Switch. You can watch the preview video essay if you want to hear me ramble about that more specifically, but basically to sum it up, I love the game. It was super popular, super well received, and I was really holding out hope that at some point they'd maybe do a prequel or sequel or spin-off game for it. But yeah, I was still pretty surprised in 2022 when we got Fire Emblem Three Hopes, a Warriors spin-off using the same engine as the original Warriors. I had very low expectations for the story, to be completely honest, and I expected it to be just as bad as the original game, but with the Three Houses cast. I mean, I was excited to see my favorite Fodlan characters back in action. I mean, I would never complain about more Fodlan content, but I was not expecting it to be very narratively deep after the not-so-good precedent they set with the first one. Fortunately, Nintendo actually proved me wrong and managed to show the world that yes, you can do a good Warrior spin-off game. So I'm going to start off talking about the story here because it's the point where the original Warriors was the weakest. Three Hopes decided to do a split route path similar to Three Houses, where you have three different routes to choose from based on the three house leaders. I played Edelgard's route first, obviously, and I actually think this time around it was the best one. Unlike in Crimson Flower, which was questionable in quality, this one actually made her feel like she was genuinely the protagonist in her side of the story and actually justified her instead of just showing you a villain route. It was really interesting for me to see her partnership with Claude because I was always of the opinion in the base game that the two of them would have worked great together as partners. Like, they pretty much wanted to accomplish the same things, but just for whatever reason, nobody wanted to talk to each other. So I was so happy to see what happens when communication actually works and they talk to each other and they had a partnership, because I was holding out hope for that the entirety of Three Houses. But the problem with her roots and all the others is that there is just so much potential that they completely and utterly wasted. They set up so much stuff with Arval and Sothis that looked like it was going to be explained, and then they just never did. I mean, don't get me wrong, I thought that they had a lot of really interesting story content in this game that really expanded on the world of Three Houses, but my god, there was so much opportunity to go beyond what they had already established, and they set up so much, and then just decided they never wanted to expound on this at all. I mean, there were just so many missed opportunities, and at the end I feel like I almost came away with more questions than actual answers. But despite all that, I still found myself relatively enjoying the narratives and having a lot of fun going through stories with the three house leaders again. But I did have one serious problem with all three of the stories, which is the endings suck. I mean, I cannot exaggerate how much the endings to all the routes suck. Like, they are complete and utter garbage. Like, there is nothing more insulting in my mind than coming out of a boss fight only for it to be met with a high five and a note that pretty much says, yeah, that battle didn't really do anything. I know we said it would. It didn't. Oops, sorry. I mean, it feels so unfinished that it is almost laughable. I mean, I finished the first route. I was like, okay, so where's the next cutscene? It's so bad. Like, it's actually so freaking bad. I mean, I already had the script in mind when I entered the final boss of Azurgleam, and I was not even surprised at all when I didn't have to edit this in the slightest because it was just as bad as the other two. But I mean, if you pretend that the endings don't exist, then yeah, it was pretty narratively solid and adds a lot to the world of Fogdom. I'm sorry for that rant there. I was just so disappointed after the original routes all had such good endings and they hit you, and it was like they were afraid to say, hey, yeah, the world would have been better if Byleth just, like, I don't know, died or something. And so they just end with a high five, or equally more insulting things where you kill somebody and then you just look at each other and it's like, oh, that's it. War didn't end. Nothing changed. Sorry about that. Hope you'll stick with us for 3 more years, though. Anyway, let me move on from that little rant and talk more about the gameplay. So the gameplay in battle did not really change from the original Warriors, which I did play, but it felt very three-houseified in a good way. The wide range of classes in this game allows for a lot more versatility in moveset, which the original did not have, and the whole skill building thing through said classes allows you to build up pretty much any unit into somebody who's relatively decent. In the original Warriors, there were some characters who started out pretty good, and some who just sucked. And there was pretty much nothing you could do to change it. But at least in this one, you can actually grow your units and turn pretty much anybody into a solid unit. I mean, I saw in the paralogs that I felt like I could pretty much play as anybody and do reasonably okay as long as they were leveled up. Whereas in the original Warriors, there was a paralog where you had to play only as Sakura and Takumi, and they were so bad. I think that level might have been impossible because the bows were trash. I mean, yeah, sure, at the end of the day, it's just a hack and slash, but with all the skills and the other things that were brought over from Three Houses, it ended up feeling a lot more like a Three Houses type game than it did another Warriors. Overall, it just cleaned up pretty much everywhere on the gameplay from the original Warriors, and it felt like it ran a lot more smoothly and was a lot more balanced out this time, which was obviously really appreciated. As far as the rest of the gameplay goes, the base camp was pretty solid, and it was pretty reminiscent of the monastery, which I obviously enjoyed because it was a nice break from battles. I think the base camp gameplay is honestly where it really felt like a Three Houses spinoff instead of another Fire Emblem Warriors. I thought all the features in the base camp were pretty solid. It was a nice addition to the game. I don't have much to really say about that other than that, but it was good. I also really liked how they allowed you to do as many battles as you wanted, like side battles to train people up, and also that they kept the paralogs from Three Houses, because I was really happy to see a whole new set of paralogs, because I always enjoyed those in the main game, and I was really happy to see they carried those over. I will say, though, that it did kind of feel like getting support levels was a little harder this time around, and I'm not quite sure why. It just felt like it was a lot more difficult to get support levels with everybody compared to Three Houses. But I mean, I don't know why. I mean, the level up activity points I felt was generally pretty fair. You could get a lot of stuff done. Honestly, I don't know if there's anything I would have really added to the monastery like section except for maybe a few mini games. But other than that, you know, it was solid, it was good. Anyway, let me talk about one of the biggest improvements they made, where they didn't just improve on it from the original Warriors, but actually from Three Houses as well. And that is Shez. Shez was 110% the protagonist that this franchise needed. One of the main critiques I see of Three Houses, and totally understand, is that Byleth has no personality. And so we, the audience, are supposed to believe that somehow literally everybody in the monastery is head over heels for them and will do literally anything for her, while she's walking around silent with pretty much no personality to speak of. And Shez is pretty much the antithesis of Byleth, with an actual fun personality who seems genuinely lovable and amazing voice actors to match. I mean, if this was an experiment by intelligence systems to see if people would prefer a speaking protagonist with an actual personality versus a self-insert avatar, I hope they took a good lesson away from this, which is that Shez is infinitely more likable than Byleth, and almost everybody I have seen greatly prefers this. But speaking of Byleth, she got some upgrade in this game too, because they decided to actually let her talk. Yeah, it turns out she is actually pretty cool when she's allowed to talk, and menacing. So I don't know why they made her silent the first time around, because her voice actor is great, and she's really threatening when she actually gets to speak. But I really do think that in terms of the cast and characters, I'd actually say Three Hopes is the better cast than Three Houses solely by virtue of having Shez. While there was some mischaracterization of characters like Sylveon, Hilda, Ingrid, where it felt like they really dialed back on character flaws, I feel like the whole cast in general felt a lot more cohesive because Shez was there holding them together. And other characters I thought were great. Wholesome Monica I thought were great additions to the cast, and they wrote them in really well where it felt like I would have believed these were characters who were main characters in the original game and not just ones they wrote in just for the spin-off. I mean, I loved the original cast in Three Houses, and while I do appreciate how much growth they go through, going from how flawed they are where they start to seeing who they grow up to be at the end of the 5 years, I also really appreciate how Three Hopes dialed it back. So you're not going through with the pre-time skip cast that's going through stuff, and it was still a treat to get to go on another adventure with that amazing group again. Now you might be wondering, because I speak so highly of Three Hopes, is there anywhere where this game actually surpassed its predecessor? So I can say with a pretty high degree of confidence that Three Houses is a better game overall. Three Hopes definitely felt a lot more polished and feels like it rectified a couple of Three Houses' mistakes. For one, the supports are generally a little more bearable to go through. I actually made a video making fun of the Three Houses supports because, good God, those were just painful to go through sometimes. So I will give them credit in that they wrote these a little better, so it didn't make me want to, like, I don't know, bash my head against the wall listening to it. Also, the ability to raise levels of any of the characters up to that of your highest level character is freaking brilliant. I mean, this is the only time I've actually been able to use characters I wouldn't have otherwise touched, because if you can just pay to bring their level up, it turns them into something that's semi-decent without you actually having to put any time into grinding them, which means this time around, you can actually complete paralogs with characters you don't use. On the graphics side, yeah, the graphics were just cleaner overall this time, which I expected given that it was at least 3 years newer than the original, but good on them for cleaning it up a bit. I mean, the 3D animations were definitely better looking visually than the 3D animations of Three Houses, which I always felt looked a little off in some regards, but I will say that even though these new 3D animations look clearer than the original Three Houses ones, I still think the 2D animations of Three Houses are infinitely better than both, because they just have so much life and they look so freaking pretty. Oh, and the music, bangers, of course. Like, I did not know it was possible to improve on the already incredible soundtrack of Three Houses, but I was proven wrong. It turns out adding an electric guitar really does make everything better. Maybe it's just recency bias, but I actually feel like I prefer the soundtrack of Three Hopes over Houses just because of how incredible it was. So, the big question. Should you spend your hard-earned $60 on this game? Honestly, yeah, I'd say it's pretty deserving of your money as long as you generally enjoyed Three Houses and are interested in going on another adventure with this group. Now, with the original Fire Emblem Warriors, I would only really recommend that to hardcore fans or people who really like mashing buttons. But I feel that this one has a much broader appeal, and anybody who got some enjoyment out of Three Houses will probably get a lot of enjoyment out of this one as well. Nintendo did a great job of actually justifying this game's existence and making it a very rewarding experience instead of just making it a lazy cash grab with a cast that they knew was very popular. I also think that Shez and Arval are genuinely one of the biggest selling points of this game because, one, the amount of new lore that is brought up by their inclusion is just so interesting and really delves into this world that I already think is super cool. And two, they're just honestly pretty entertaining. Okay, so I know I might be a bit biased because I love Three Houses and I've been pretty open about the fact I liked the button mashing of the original Warriors, but I was genuinely surprised when this game exceeded my expectations. I was wholeheartedly just expecting another lazy cash grab like the first one when Nintendo realized they had little gold on their hands with the cast, but I was pleasantly surprised by how captivating the new Roots was, and just the commitment to making a game that was actually really fun to play through. I had my doubts about a Three Houses inspired Warriors game, but I think they did such a good job with Three Hopes that it is genuinely deserving of the title of sequel to Three Houses, which, if you know how much I love that game, is not something I say lightly. The game is incredibly far from perfect, but I still think that it provides a solid experience through and through to most players. And if you're a fan of Three Houses, this game has some of the same magic that only really these two games I feel like have given me, with providing the absolutely incredible music, story, world building, and cast. I mean, I remember when this game was announced in the Nintendo Direct, I was really disappointed because I was personally hoping for a prequel with the actual Three Houses engine. And when I found out it was going to be a Warriors game, I was a little disappointed because I remember how narratively pathetic the first one was. And so I did not have high expectations for this one at all. And so if I'm sitting here recommending this one to you because I actually thought it was a good experience, trust me, it really isn't half bad. So hats off to you, Nintendo, for not only making a Warriors game that I think justifies its ridiculous price tag, but also making a game that I feel like is truly deserving of the title of follow-up to the incomparable Three Houses. And also, just a side note, now that I finished, I am honestly really sad to be done with all the Fodlan content. I played these two games over a span of about 5 years, which accounts for about a quarter of my life, if you can believe that. The impact that these games had on me is huge, and I really don't think I'll ever love a cast and a world anywhere near as much as I love the Fodlan crew. I mean, I wish there weren't as many loose ends, but I'm still holding out hope that maybe one day they'll clean a little of them up with either a prequel or an enhanced edition when the obvious money grab comes for a Three Houses definitive edition. Also, Nintendo, let me just say, I think this game is perfect for the TV market, and if you ever decided to make a show based on this, I think there would be a lot of people who would eat this up, especially if you do it well. And I'm totally not just saying that because I think I would make a perfect live action Edelgard. Just saying, if you ever want to hit me up, totally interested. So I just want to say this as a thank you to Nintendo and Intelligent Systems and the voice actors and all the incredible people who worked on these games, because the impact they've had on me is huge. And I am just so grateful to them for creating such an amazing experience that I guess taught me the magic of video games. And I really don't think I will ever love a game as much as I loved Three Houses. And I'm so grateful to Nintendo and everybody who worked on this game for making it just as incredible as it is. Like I said, I'm really sad that Fodlan is over, but at the same time, I am excited to see where the series might go next, as long as it's not like Engage, which I still have not touched because I don't want to let that ruin my amazing experience with Fire Emblem. Anyway, thank you again for watching. Go play Three Houses, please. And yeah, I will see ya. Okay, wow, so now that that's over, let me rant real quick about the fact this is frickin' finals week. Sorry, I need to get this out. So I am stupid. I decided I was going to film all of my videos for Christmas break during finals week. Brilliant, I know. And I have been so swamped with everything. I have not gotten to draw. I have not gotten to relax. I have not gotten to do anything. My mornings are basically wake up, get ready, film, and then I eat lunch. I sit in the library for hours. I mean, I have had exams. I have had projects. I've had papers. The other day, I wrote a 24-page paper with a 2-page supplemental essay, because sure, why not? And I was going till about 11 p.m. at night, and I am miserable. This is the first time I've kind of cleaned myself up in a while, because I'm just so exhausted, man. It's been brutal, and I feel so bad because I'm like behind on everything content-wise, but like I'm trying to knock everything out now, because when I get home, I'm only home for 2 days, and then I am going to Florida. So it's been fun. I know you guys probably won't see this till after Christmas, and so I'm talking about a vacation that by the time you'll see this has already happened, and I am stressing out about an exam in a few days that will have already happened by the time you see this. And hey, me who's editing, can you please put my grade up here? I'm really hoping I get an A, but I just got such a bad feeling about this, and I think that people need to know. And yeah, it's been so stressful. I don't know why I did this to myself. I just figured I would not get the time to film over the actual break. So I was like, yeah, let's do everything now. And it has sucked. It has straight up sucked. I have not had to sleep this much in forever because I am just so exhausted. Like, as soon as I'm done here, well, it's Sunday, so I'm going to be watching the playoff selection show, and then I'm going over to the library, chugging a peppermint coffee, crying, I guess, while studying for 5 hours on a neuroscience exam. Life is great. Yeah, so that's pretty much how life's been going. On the bright side, though, I am not sick anymore, so I don't sound like Kermit the Frog, which is great. Yeah, you're starting to see my irritability show. I flew back to campus on Sunday, and the last, week, Yeah, it's been a week. The last week has literally been the worst. I mean, I have been nonstop go, go, go for the last week. I still have 2 more days of this to go. And then I go home just to go down to Florida 2 days later. So American Airlines loves me, as I'm sure you already know. They're my favorite airline. Of course, please don't cancel my flight. And yeah, I'm crossing my fingers that everything works out. I do well on my exams. I don't have to take a connection on Wednesday morning that would strand me in Washington and make me do a final exam in the Washington airport, because that actually sounds like a nightmare. I don't want to go to Washington, American. Please let my flight be on time. And yeah, so yeah, it's been great. I am like literally about to lose my mind. I so need to get out of here. I so need a vacation. I so need a break from schoolwork. And I don't know what I was thinking I was going to take a neuroscience class for fun. Although, some good news, I did absolutely crush my stats exam, which means I have an A in calculus on crack, aka stats, data analysis, whatever you want to call it. So that's good. And yeah, I love my life. But thank you guys for listening to me rant. If you've ever been through college or had a stressful year of high school, I think you can relate to the actual nightmare that is finals week, because there is nothing worse on planet Earth than finals week. People say they still get nightmares years after they leave college of finals week, because it sucks so much. Okay, yeah, so I'm sorry for ranting. I probably sound like I'm crazy, because I honestly think I am at this point. I wrote 24 pages the other day. I don't know how that happened. I'm on my last strain. I don't even know. I'm about to do like 5 hours of studying neuroscience. I'm not even a neuroscience major. I'm not even a neuroscience minor. I don't know why I took this class. I thought it would be interesting and it sucked. And now it's gonna break my grade. Okay. Please pray for a 4.0 for me this semester. Yeah. Okay. I gotta get straight A's. Thank you. I love you guys. Yeah, sorry. Bye. I hate finals week. Good luck to everybody on finals. Actually, you probably already did your finals. I'm sorry. Merry Christmas. Bye.